It is Halloween. There'll be plenty of ghosts and goblins out on the streets tonight, so do watch them actually when you're out driving. But the question is, are they going to be on the markets moving forward and maybe ruin what's been a good year so far? Jeff Hall, Senior Financial Advisor for Manulife Wealth, here to make it all a little less scary. You put a list out that scared me when I was reading it on what on possibilities. I think the big one is the U.S. China and the rare earths and those minerals, and concerns if it falls apart again, they could be shut off.
Yeah, that's one of the Achilles heels that the U.S. economy has, is they're absolutely thirsty and desirous for those critical minerals or rare earths. Even magnets. China controls well over 90% of the world magnet market, not just the mining and refining, but changing it into an end product. China does almost all of it. Even some of the raw materials from around the world have to still go to China to get turned into that end product. So the U.S. has a major problem, and they need those rare earths. There's over 800 pounds of rare earths in an F-35 fighter jet. If they don't get that from China, there's no more F-35 fighter jets. The Apple iPhone, we got magnets in the speakerphone and the earpiece, just like we have our earpiece and our microphones here. Without magnets, we're going to be shouting at each other on live TV. Starting a car, an MRI machine, closing your fridge. Without a magnet, it makes things very difficult. And China completely has domination over that on the globe.
And I think that's what people hear that about the fighter jet, and oh my goodness, but it's this stuff. All of a sudden you can't search Google. You can't look something up. You can't talk to somebody.
Exactly.
Those are the things that would be scary. The war in Ukraine, another one. You're talking about possibly going long. I mean, it's already long term, but this could settle in for a long time. How would that be a disruptor at some point?
Just the fact it's going to keep dragging and dragging and dragging. Trump is trying to bring down the price of oil because Russia needs oil at least in the 50s to kind of break even. Under that, that economy has a lot of trouble because Putin's smart. He's actually built a war economy. But I'll tell you where I have a concern for kind of that ghosts or goblins that could attack markets is Putin's very famous for kind of sticking his thumb in the eye of people along the way with NATO and kind of floating drones into Poland, into Sweden. He's kind of just always agitating to remind people that he's there. Mm-hmm. But there could be just a quick misinterpretation between a fighter jet and a fighter jet from the other side, some kind of misinterpretation. One shoots the other by mistake or something's misunderstood. Next, you have this inflame of a situation that's fairly not totally in control, but is at least contained right now. You can also have someone like Zelensky start to fire missiles into Russia rather than just try to defend. He could go on a complete offense as well and try to hit further and further targets inside of Russia, and that can inflame the situation as well and kind of spook the markets.
Okay, and this one, I mean, you don't want to see anybody but die, but the idea that the president could die. He's approaching 80, loves his fast food.
Loves his Kentucky Fried Chicken, loves his McDonald's. He's 80 years old. He doesn't sleep much. He keeps a very crazy schedule. And I know a lot of the reporters that follow him and are on Air Force One, he could wake them up at 3 a.m. because he wants to talk about something. Even the young people are tired out by him. So he does keep a torrid pace. And he could just, from old age, he could just suddenly pass away. And think about the reordering the globe would have to do all of a sudden. All the people that are signing deals or about to sign deals. If the big bully is off the stage, how does that change things? How do companies and how do countries react in a different way if the orange guy isn't there?
And Vance is as much as he's known, he's an unknown, and he's been very quiet lately, hasn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't want to steal the thunder from Trump. Trump likes to take all the oxygen in the room, but Vance is a very savvy fellow. He's a great speaker. He knows his stuff, so he can slide into that position. But again, Trump has this aura about him that he's built for decades and decades in countries that are fearful of him or desirous of doing business with him. Vance is a little bit of an unknown on the global stage, so he'd have to start to have that connective tissue with countries. And then obviously, how does he work soft power and hard power to influence dialogues with other countries? Trump can do it just from flexing. But it's going to be interesting. But that's a real reality. We've got 3.5 years more that Trump is president, and he's going to be around almost 84 years old when that time ends. That's getting up there a little bit, especially for a guy who eats a lot of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
All right. And I mean, we talk about these are always a possibility, but hurricanes, natural disasters, and with climate change that's happening, they're getting worse in many places. That's a disruptor.
Yeah, absolutely. Even in places like Florida, you always get hit with hurricanes and all kinds of issues all the time, which leads to the flooding, which leads to maybe 100,000 or 200,000 homes and all the cars that are damaged that have to be replaced. So sometimes it can actually surge economies and help businesses that way, but it would hurt insurance companies, as an example, who would then raise premiums, and that can hurt the consumer that has to pay for that. So you get this what I call a kinetic chain if you follow it along. So even something like a large earthquake worldwide, that can hurt things. A large volcanic situation. If you remember Iceland about 14 years ago, what I call the Icelandic ash attack, where the volcano burps up all this stuff into the atmosphere. They had to ground all the planes in Europe. That hurt the economy. So there's always something kind of haunting that's around the corner. But the root reality is there's always a solution. And the people that do the best as investors and companies are the ones that can find the win-win solution where you solve an immediate and urgent problem. And that's usually the best thing, to do good while you're doing good.
Okay. Happy Halloween indeed.